The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the community park where families gathered for a day of fun and laughter. Children ran freely, their joyous shouts echoing as they played tag among the swings and slides. But in a shadowed corner of the park, a confrontation was brewing, one that would shatter the day's peace and leave a lasting mark on the community. 8-year-old Maya Thompson, a bright and spirited girl with a love for life that belied her physical challenges, wheeled her chair toward the playground. Her laughter rang like music in the air, a sound of innocence and joy. But as she navigated the gravel path, she unwittingly crossed paths with Officer Jake Thompson, a member of the local police force known for his aggressive demeanor and unchecked biases. "Get out of the way, you little brat!" he barked, his voice dripping with contempt as he stepped into her path, blocking her wheelchair. The abruptness of his words caught Maya off guard, her smile faltering as she looked up at the towering figure of the officer, his face twisted in disdain. She was used to the stares and whispers, but the raw hostility in his tone was foreign, even frightening. "Maya, it's okay," her father, Derek, called out from the nearby picnic table, concern etched on his face as he rushed toward them. Derek was an FBI agent, committed to upholding justice and protecting his community. As he approached, his heart raced, not just from the anger swelling within him but from the protective instinct that surged at the sight of his daughter facing such hostility. But before Derek could reach them, the officer, driven by a simmering rage and deeply ingrained prejudices, moved closer. "You don't belong here," he spat, raising a hand. In an instant, without warning or provocation, he struck Maya across the face, sending shockwaves through the crowd. Gasps erupted, a wave of disbelief cascading over the onlookers. Derek's blood ran cold as he witnessed the unthinkable. His little girl, vulnerable and disabled, was assaulted by a man sworn to protect her. As chaos erupted around them, the atmosphere shifted from joyful celebration to horror. Bystanders whipped out their phones, capturing the incident as outrage ignited. Shouts filled the air, demanding justice for Maya, whose innocence had been so brutally violated. This incident was not just a random act of aggression. It was a reflection of the systemic racism that festered in their community, a community that had long been marred by stories of police misconduct and racial profiling. For years, residents had whispered of incidents swept under the rug, of people of color treated as suspects in their own neighborhoods. It was a narrative all too familiar, and now it was painfully tangible. As the police sirens wailed in the distance, signaling the arrival of backup, the tension in the air was palpable. Derek felt a mixture of rage and despair, knowing that this moment would resonate far beyond the park. The injustice faced by his daughter was a microcosm of a larger struggle, a call to action that echoed throughout the community, demanding accountability and change. In that moment, it became clear that the fight for justice was only just beginning. Officer Jake Thompson grew up in a small, predominantly white town where the racial dynamics shaped his worldview from an early age. Raised by parents who espoused antiquated beliefs about race and authority, Jake adopted their prejudices, viewing people of color through a lens of suspicion and disdain. As he transitioned into adulthood, he sought a career in law enforcement, believing it was his duty to uphold order in a world he perceived as chaotic and threatening. Throughout his time on the police force, Thompson's record became marred by incidents of excessive force and discriminatory behavior. Colleagues whispered about his aggressive tactics, recounting episodes where he used unnecessary physical force during routine stops. His encounters with people of color often escalated, with reports of him using derogatory language and racial slurs. These incidents were frequently overlooked by his superiors, who turned a blind eye, creating a culture where Thompson felt empowered to act on his biases without fear of repercussions. The few complaints lodged against him were dismissed, enabling him to continue his career while reinforcing his belief that he was justified in his actions. Maya Thompson was a vibrant 8-year-old girl whose spirit shone bright despite the challenges she faced. Born with cerebral palsy, she navigated the world in a wheelchair, but her disabilities never defined her. With an infectious smile and a love for storytelling, Maya brought joy to those around her, often captivating her family and friends with her vivid imagination. Her family provided unwavering support, embracing her uniqueness and encouraging her to pursue her dreams. Her mother, a devoted nurse, often spoke about the importance of compassion and understanding. Her father, Derek, while busy with his demanding job as an FBI agent, always made time to engage in Maya's world, whether it was reading her favorite books or helping her with school projects. Together, they celebrated each milestone, instilling in her a sense of resilience and self-worth. Maya was well aware of the world around her, understanding that she was different. However, her innocence and optimism led her to believe that kindness would always prevail. She often used her experiences to advocate for others, demonstrating a maturity beyond her years as she navigated the complexities of childhood with courage. Derek Thompson, Maya's father, had dedicated his life to fighting for justice. As an FBI agent, he was committed to tackling issues of crime, corruption, and discrimination. His career was driven by a desire to create a safer world, where everyone, regardless of their background, could feel secure. Derek's experiences in the field had exposed him to the harsh realities of systemic injustice, reinforcing his belief that the fight for equality extended beyond the walls of his workplace. As a father, Derek was fiercely protective of Maya. He taught her the importance of standing up for herself and others, instilling values of integrity and empathy. The bond they shared was profound, characterized by mutual respect and love. Derek knew that as a black father in America, he had to equip his daughter with the tools to navigate a world filled with prejudice. He often reminded her, "You are strong, you are valuable, and your voice matters." Derek's commitment to justice extended beyond his role as an agent. It was a core part of his identity. When he witnessed the brutal confrontation between Officer Thompson and Maya, he felt a surge of anger and determination. It was no longer just about his daughter. It was about challenging the very systems that perpetuated racism and violence. In that moment, he knew that he would fight not just for Maya, but for every individual who had been wronged by a system that failed to protect them. The community park was alive with laughter and joy, vibrant banners flapping gently in the warm breeze. Families had gathered for the annual summer festival, where food stalls lined the path, children raced towards the carnival rides, and music played softly in the background. Maya Thompson, in her colorful wheelchair adorned with stickers of her favorite superheroes, felt the warmth of the day and the happiness surrounding her. She rolled along the path, her eyes bright with excitement as she took in the sights and sounds of the festival. But as she made her way towards the playground, a sudden shift in the atmosphere caught her attention. Officer Jake Thompson, a local cop known for his aggressive demeanor, stood by the entrance, scanning the crowd with a hawkish gaze. He was a large man, his presence commanding, yet there was an unsettling tension in his stance. As Maya approached, the officer's eyes narrowed, locking onto her as if she were a threat rather than a child. "Move it, you little brat!" he barked, stepping into her path with a scowl. His words dripped with contempt, echoing harshly against the laughter and music that filled the air. Maya froze, her innocent expression shifting to confusion. She had encountered unkindness before, but never from someone meant to protect her. "What are you doing here? This is no place for people like you," he sneered, his voice laced with racial undertones that left no room for misunderstanding. Maya's heart raced, a whirlwind of emotions flooding her senses. The joy she had felt moments before faded, replaced by fear and disbelief. She looked up at him, her eyes wide and vulnerable, searching for some semblance of understanding. "I just wanted to play," she whispered, her small voice barely rising above the chaos around them. As she attempted to roll past him, the officer moved closer, his face a mask of anger and prejudice. In a shocking moment, without provocation, he raised his hand and struck her across the face. The sound of the slap echoed in the stunned silence that followed, piercing through the noise of the festival. Maya gasped, her hand instinctively flying to her cheek, tears welling in her eyes. The crowd that had been enjoying the festivities now turned, shock and outrage coursing through them as they witnessed the brutal act. From a distance, Derek Thompson, Maya's father, had been chatting with friends, unaware of the escalating situation. When he heard the commotion, a cold wave of dread washed over him. Turning sharply, he saw his daughter's wheelchair stopped, Maya's face a mixture of confusion and pain, and Officer Thompson looming over her like a dark cloud. Derek's heart raced as he sprinted toward them, fear turning into a blinding rage. "Hey! What the hell do you think you're doing?" he shouted, his voice steady but filled with urgency. The crowd began to murmur, emotions rising as they instinctively rallied around Maya. Derek's protective instincts kicked in, and he could feel his heart pounding in his chest, his mind racing as he reached his daughter. In that moment, all the laughter and joy of the festival evaporated, replaced by a palpable tension that hung heavy in the air. Maya's innocence had collided with a harsh reality, and her father was now thrust into a battle not just for his daughter, but for every child who had ever felt the sting of prejudice. Derek's eyes locked onto the officers, and he was determined to ensure that this act of brutality would not go unchallenged. The moment the news of Maya Thompson's brutal encounter with Officer Jake Thompson spread through the community, it was as if a dam had burst. Social media erupted with outrage as videos of the incident circulated, showing the distressing moment when the officer struck the innocent girl. The hashtags #JusticeForMaya and #accountability now began trending, uniting people from all walks of life in a collective call for justice. Local news outlets descended upon the park,